So you're running for the House Representative,
House of Representatives,
District
yes.
23,
In District 23, Seat B.
Seat B.
Yeah.
So, what led you to decide to run for office? What was the factor that said, I'm going to do this?
Well, so I came from the Portland metro area of Oregon, and I grew up over in that whole, northwest corner of Oregon, and I really swore to God I'd never leave that area. I loved it. I was an hour from the ocean, I was an hour from the mountains, some of the best hunting that, I ever wanted, and I'm a very avid outdoorsman, so it's, you know, there was a lot going on, but I was also a contractor. And I had to pay attention to what my government was doing at all times because, I mean, the rules change daily. And it really makes it hard to do a job when the government's telling you one day to do it this way and the next day to do it the next day. So I got involved in politics over there in, I say 94 sometimes, I say 95 sometimes. Sometimes I think it might have even been 93. But it was, the early to mid 90s. And I got involved with what at the time was the Taxpayer Party in Oregon. I was fed up with the Republican Party because, like they're doing in Idaho now, they were selling us out. And so I got involved with the Taxpayer Party as they were building, and it flopped sometime in 98, 99, somewhere right around there, and it kind of merged into what's now the Constitution Party of Oregon, which is now no more. It's all, political infighting and stuff, and everyone wants to be in charge. But when I moved to Idaho in 2005, I came to work for a very large ranch here just out of Glens Ferry, and I didn't feel the effects of government so much, but I still saw them. And when the ranch decided in 2012 to fold, because under the Obama administration it was just impossible for farming and ranching to really succeed without going broke, really. I mean, you had to invest just way too much into all the new rules and regulations. I started noticing that Idaho wasn't quite as conservative as it claimed to be.
It appeared to be, right?
Yeah, well, they make the big deal, Idaho, the last conservative stand, the last real red state. Well, it's red, but its representation isn't.
Right.
We have conservatives in the House and especially in the Senate that vote for bigger government, higher taxes, and more spending far more often than the Democrats do. As a matter of fact, the Idaho Freedom Foundation in the session that just ended, I guess that'd be the 2019 session, 2019-2020 session, we had conservatives that scored far lower than some of the most liberal representatives the Democrats have. And, something's really wrong. So I ran actually in 2018 also. The Secretary of State, in his infinite wisdom and because of some paperwork snafus, forced me into being a write-in. And so I didn't campaign really hard in 2018. I didn't spend a bunch of money because my campaigns are pretty much self-financed.
Right.
I mean, my voters, the people I want to represent, are the working class people. And, in this area, we work 3 months in the spring, 3 months in the fall, and the rest of the time you're not working. So you tuck away when it's good for when it's bad. And, I don't want to take a loaf of bread from a friend's family when, the kids in December are going to need a loaf of bread. So I pretty much self-finance. I have a few, friends and supporters that donate, and, people like you that come and do things like this for me, out of a kindness of your heart, and I guess that's called an in-kind donation.
There you go, yeah.
So, I get a lot of that. I do almost all my own printing, so I'm able to save money, but it's I forgot where we were going. What was the question we were working on?
It was what led you to decide to run.
That's it. So, see, I get off track really
That's
easy.
all right.
So
That's
many
all right.
places to go. But, in 2018, I decided I'd had enough. I had some administrative rules from Oregon that came over and kind of started hitting me here. And when I really started looking at the way Idaho writes their administrative rules and how they implement them, I thought, this is just wrong because, many don't realize that the administrative code in the state of Idaho is pretty much how the Idaho operates. I mean, absolutely everything is based off of, if you're dealing with the government in any way, shape, or form, it operates off administrative rules, and they have the same full force and effect as law does. But they don't have the same process. So when these started affecting me, I started contacting some of my legislators. And one of my legislators I love dearly, Christy Zito, I met her when I first moved here. Her family moved here a year or two before I did, and we became really good friends. And I'd actually had been involved with the party before that, and been asked several times to step up and run for office to help the party out and run against Rich Wills, who in 2016, thankfully, Christie did, because then the party stopped asking me to run. And I mean, I have no issue being involved in politics. I just never wanted to be that front runner.
Understood.
I mean, I'm a working class schmo.
I would say schmo.
Well, okay, a Joe. I'm a working
Okay,
class
there you
Joe.
go.
I'm more comfortable in a holey pair of jeans, a ripped up T-shirt,
Right.
covered in grease, and crawling around a piece of equipment somewhere. I mean, I'm a carpenter by trade. I retired from that as a contractor, but I've always been a grease monkey. So when I came to Idaho, you know, I came to work as a ranch mechanic, and it, you know, I didn't have that comfort to be out front, but you know, some in the party and worked with me, and I've got friends that are in the legislature and stuff, and we've worked and talked, and you know, we all feel it's just there's a need for change. So, you know, when my legislators start telling me, well, you know, we'd like to change it, but we just can't. And it's like, well, why can't you? Well, it's just because it's the way it is, and everybody's got to go along to get along, and no one wants to cross the governor, and the administrative rules are how, you know, the executive branch operate. And it's like, well, but the executive rules are designed to tell the government how they function and operate, not we the people. So, you know, actually, if you read the first few lines of the APA, which is the Administrative Procedures or Practices Act, depending on who you ask, it says right in there that it is, the rules are the interpretation for the government of the legislative intent for the laws that they represent. But it's gone so far beyond that. I mean, if I spent the last 3.5 years peeling through and reading almost every administrative rule and going through and marking up rules that are either no longer valid, which luckily, you know, went the 2018 session, the government went through and did a whole bunch of that because the House and the Senate didn't reapprove the going home bill, which is what authorizes the rules. So they all became null and void that following June, and they had to go through and revamp them.
Okay.
So they got rid of a bunch of the rules that were null and void or just no longer applied. And then, you know, our glorious governor at that point declares we're the least regulated, you know, state in the union. And it's like, how do you figure? We had 8,300 and I think it was 78 pages of rules, and they knocked it down to 7,300 pages.
Okay.
So they took about 1,000 pages out of it. And it's like, that's, you know, every last one of them were rules that were just no longer valid or couldn't be enforced, or, you know, so we need to change the APA. We have a lot of code that needs to change too, because it's just unconstitutional and it's just never been challenged. So I mean, I've got 2 3-ring binders, 3-inch 3-ring binders that are just full of notes and for everything I found. And you know, I've contacted the legislatures over the last 2 years, and you know, they work. It's just it's really ridiculous. They say they don't have time to do the job they're supposed to be doing because they have so many new laws and rules that they're going in every year. You know, well, let's stop making new rules and new laws. Scrap what we got. We don't even have to scrap them. Let's just go through them and actually do your job and audit them like you're supposed to. You know, every year, I think the Department of Health and Welfare sends 1,200 pages of rules in to be reapproved, because they have to be, I think it's a 10-year cycle or something like that. Every 10 years they have to all be reviewed and stuff. And the legislature doesn't read those. They rely on the people from those agencies that come to them that these rules are really what they're doing. I mean, I've shown legislatures rules and I go, how does this work?
Yeah.
you know, and they go, oh, we didn't know that was in there. Well, wait a minute, you approved it this year.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
they don't know what it is.
yeah. Do you guys even read these? You know, another, because I am a constitutionist and I'm very fiscally conservative. I mean,
Uh-huh.
the best government there is the smallest government you doesn't know exists, which means if they're taxing you and you feel those taxes, you know about government. You know, we we have a balanced budget system here in Idaho and a pretty good rainy day fund. But the problem is they balance the budget every year by what did we spend last year? Let's bump it up 10% and spend 10% more. You know, I've asked many times why we don't have a line item veto on our budget,
Right.
and I get the answer, well, we don't have the time. You don't. I mean, and really, the budget's thousands of pages. Well, the main job of the legislature is to approve the budget. So why aren't you sitting down and reading the budget? You know, Representative, well, retired Representative Stephen Hartigan recently wrote an article that was published, I believe, in the Twin Falls Times or something
Yeah.
like that, where he bashed people that I consider to actually be conservative as being far right and extreme. And he actually went after Christy Zito on one and made a comment that, you know, she'll pass any gun bill that comes before her, but the first bill she had to deal with in the House in 2016 was a finance bill for College of Western Idaho or CSI or something like that, and she sure shot that down. Well, you know, the bad thing is the way our budget is now, it's an all or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in office and there's one line item in that budget that I don't approve of that's a wasteful, I have to deny the whole budget.
Right.
I cannot, in my conscience, you know, pass a budget. If it's going to be all or nothing, guess what? You better make sure what's in there is
It's legit.
gonna float.
Yeah.
Because if not, I'm going to vote it down every time. And you
Okay.
know, everyone goes, well, how are you going to accomplish anything with that kind of attitude? Well, if we had 30 people with my kind of attitude, we wouldn't be sitting in the situation where we are right now.
Right.
So I mean, we have 70 representatives in the House and 35 in the Senate. That's, you know, 2 senators for each district. Or I'm sorry, 2 representatives for each district and 1 senator. You know, that's 105 people. It's, you know, doesn't take a lot to really make a change. And you know, with the Republican primary this year, we picked up, I would say, 4 more conservative seats. We lost 1 very conservative representative, but you know, we picked up 5, so we gained 4 seats. So,
Right.
you know, we're sitting at about 20 now. So it's getting to the point where we can, you know, actually maybe start accomplishing some stuff in the House and the
Okay.
Senate. But, you know, as long as we have people like the current leadership and, you know, the chairs that'll stick things in the drawer because the governor won't like it, and, you know, we just need to stop playing politics and start, you know, supporting the people.
Cool. I
So-
like that. All right. We're going to take a little break for a moment here, and we'll be right back.